Hello, my wonderful, wonderful people, and welcome to Hamburg. After a year of traveling, I am now back in Germany and back in my own place. So if you're new to this channel, this is my place. This is not an Airbnb. This is nothing I rent for a short period of time. This is my home. And I'm really happy to be back. I have finished my Seoul travels with a little bit of footage of the Hangang at night, which I filmed kind of at the start of my second Seoul trip. So yeah, that was when it was not raining and when you were still able to walk near the Hangang without a problem. But because the footage was so short, I never quite knew what to do with it. And I thought it was kind of like the perfect way of saying goodbye, because the river is just one of the biggest parts of Seoul, and I love it so much, even though this time I was not able to visit as often as I did in other visits of the city. Simply because of the rain. So I was never quite sure if it was a good idea to go down there, go near the riverbed, which could be overflowing. So now I want to talk to you just about the Seoul trip, the second Seoul trip during the whole trip. And of course there will be videos about other things that I never quite found the time to film. So you will get a video about like the planning beforehand and things you should think about when you want to do a one-year travel, things I had to do, about finances, anything like that. I will do a separate video. I think it will be easier to do it from here than when I was traveling and when I was trying to bring content to you guys while exploring the city. So you can look forward to that. But now, let's stop talking about what will come. Let's start talking about Seoul. One of the first things I want to remind you of when I'm talking about the Seoul part of my one-year travel is that this was not my first time. This was my fourth time in Seoul. And going to Seoul is a little bit like going home. And going back to Seoul is a little bit like going home. So it does not feel as adventurous as other parts of the trip. It was definitely not as new as other parts of the trip where I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this city, so let's just explore. That makes the whole trip slightly different, but I enjoyed it a lot and I hope you did too. Now, the second and maybe more important thing is one very, very big tip, which I probably could have given you even before I was there this time, because I knew what I was getting into. And that is the simple tip: don't go there during summertime. Don't. I love the city so much, but because of the typhoon and because of the heat waves, exploring is way harder than it is when you go in spring or in autumn. So if it's your first time and you really want to see the city and you really want to explore the city, and you're not only there to go shopping or to go from one air-conditioned place to the next one, don't go in the summer. The rain will keep you inside or will get you really wet. And the heat and the humidity will make it almost impossible to go out. So whenever I went out when the sun was shining and when the weather was good, it took like 5 minutes and I was sweating through and through. I was completely soaked. And that's no fun, because once you get into the metro or you go into any of the malls or anything, it will be so cold that chances are high that you might even get a cold. So you're outside and you're sweating, and you're not sweating because of the sun, you're sweating because it's humid and you're like in an air fryer. So you've been sweating through and through, and then you go into a room and it's cold. The metro, the trains are really cold. The malls are sometimes really, really cold. So yeah, if it's like your first time and you want to explore and you want to see everything, then summertime is definitely not good. Really, really not good. I can't tell you about winter because I left Korea last year in December, at the start of December, and in November it wasn't that cold yet. So, but it was starting to get cold, and if the K-dramas and the behind the scenes are anything to go by, I think it will get so cold that you won't enjoy the winter either. So probably, even though those are the times when most tourists go, so there will be more tourists, still spring or autumn, because you won't enjoy the country otherwise. Not really. So yeah, an important tip for anyone who wants to visit there. Even though it was hot and it was raining a lot, you have seen parts of the Airbnb I had booked, so I was kind of lucky. I had a beautiful place. I was able to just stay in, to do painting. I went shopping a lot because this was the first stop where, it was the last stop of my whole tour, so it was the first stop where I could go shopping, because beforehand I really did not go shopping this extensively because I had the big backpack and that was it. And that one was full, so I couldn't buy anything new. And for flying back, I knew I could get a second suitcase without a problem, and I did that. So I did a lot of shopping. And finally, I did a lot of shopping when it came to art supplies, because overall, in comparison to Germany, which is quite expensive if you compare it to other things, things were cheaper. So it was easier for me to buy the expensive paints, the expensive paint brushes, because they were, in comparison, cheaper than they would be here. Because in comparison, everything is quite expensive in Germany. So yeah. Still, I did not only do shopping, and as you've seen, I still found a lot of things I did not see the first few times I was there. Simply because this time I decided to do something new and to see something new. So the Iwa mural village, for example, I've never been there before. I never been to the DTP, which is interesting because it's kind of weird that I've never been, but yeah, this time I went. And because of the heat, I knew I wanted to visit a lot of the museums, which were a lot of fun. Some were more interesting than others, but that's simply the crux with any museum. Sometimes a modern museum has like very cool things, and other times it's just a Beuys. Beuys is a very famous artist who, for example, just took butter and buttered up a whole bathtub. And that was the art installation. So I love his weirdness, and I love the idea that can be art, but still going into a room with a big bathtub that is just smeared with butter is maybe not as interesting as a really cool installation or a really cool art piece of a really big one. if you know what I mean. But yeah, I still had a lot of fun going to all of these different museums and art collections. And I have not seen all of them. There are a lot more you could go to. There are also a lot of the private ones, and yeah, so there's still a few little green dots on my Google map that I could go to next time I'm going to visit. Also, something Seoul is very famous for are the cute and really cool different kinds of cafes. Sometimes I have tried to take pictures and shown them on Instagram, but mostly only from the outside, which the problem for me, this is not a problem with the cafes. The problem for me is my social anxiety when it comes to food, especially if I don't speak the language. And because these cafes are really cool, a lot of times they're really, really packed. So for me, it's hard to go there, but I've seen so many cute ones, interesting ones. You will find so many cafes you can go to. It's just unbelievable. And now that I'm back in Hamburg, I have decided to find similar ones here because the cafe culture is not that deep as it is in Seoul. And a lot of times when you think of a private cafe, a lot of times it's more for older people. So for when Granny meets her girlfriends and they're eating their, I don't know, Donauwelle and drinking their Kännchen-Kaffee. Or you will get your tiny kettle kind of coffee. So yeah, similar to when you think of British tea time, the fancy one, we have something similar and it's like our coffee time. So, but I think this has changed over a lot of years. So it's no longer the old cafes that are really dark, but there will be some hip ones and I will find them and I will show them to you. And now that I have my friends here, I don't have to go by myself. So it will be a lot easier to do that. Because it's not only the fact that I don't like going in there, but it helps to have someone when you have an appointment, a date where you say, okay, we're going to go to this and that cafe, then you will do it. It's more like I need a strict appointment to do things like that. Otherwise, I will just walk past and take a picture. Yeah, and other than Seoul, I went for a short trip to Daegu, which was a lot of fun. But let's be honest, it was a lot of fun because I met friends. And I'm not that sure how interesting Daegu would be if you just visited. If there's a reason for you to visit, do it. Because it's still a pretty city and it's still interesting to walk around. But it's not that interesting. But if you want to go because you think, oh, this is Sugar's hometown, go. It doesn't take a lot of time to go there by train, by KTX. And the city itself is interesting and kind of cool. And you can do shopping and yeah. But if there's nothing that draws you there because of a certain reason, I think there are other cities that might be more interesting to visit. Especially Busan. But that's just my heart that beats quite loudly for Busan. Yeah, and other than that, I can't really say anything negative about my stay in Seoul. But as I said at the beginning, that's simply because I've been there so many times that it feels like coming to a second home. So things I could tell you about other countries where I'm like, oh, this was new to me, or this was interesting, or it just doesn't really happen here. So I hope with the footage I've shown you, I was able to show you some interesting parts and maybe interest you in visit there. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Otherwise, there's nothing really that stood out to me this time, because it was all really familiar. So yeah, I will make, as I said, I will make an overall vlog about things like my travel insurance and how I did the SIM thing, because I had to get like SIM cards every time I went to a different country. So these things I will tell you in an overall video and not like here, because it doesn't really make sense. But if you have questions about any of these kinds of things, leave them down below and I will take them with me for that video. So yeah, this is the end of an almost 1 year Asia trip. And I had a lot of fun, but I'm also a little bit happy that I am now back home and not traveling anymore for a short period of time. I think I will travel again. But for now, after the videos about the overall trip, or maybe in between, you can look forward to Hamburg footage. And I hope that with all the new viewers that have joined me during my trip, you will look forward to see Germany and to hear tips and tricks about Germany. And I try to do this from a traveling point of view, not from a, oh, I live here point of view and go, oh yeah, this might be interesting, but not for me. So I'll try to show you things that might be interesting to you and that might not be as interesting to me because I live here. And I think, yeah, that's one of the big churches. Okay, I don't care, but it might be interesting to you. So yeah, we'll find some things to look at. Yeah. So, thank you for joining me on my adventures. And if you have followed me and did not subscribe the whole time, please, 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 please do. The footage will not stop. You will get, as I said, Hamburg videos. You will get relaxing vlogs that you can just put in the back. And yeah, some other things as well, I'm sure. Don't forget to like and share and maybe leave a little comment. That would be really appreciated. And I hope you're all healthy. I was a little bit sick when I landed, so that's why it took a little bit to do this filming. But now I'm better, and now I'm going to tackle everything that needs to be tackled. And I will see you in the next vlog. Until then, I'm going to leave you with a bye!